Okay.
Yeah. I'm so pleased that we're doing this together. Although I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed that you've had a lockdown clean up and you're looking sharper than last time I saw you. I've still got the beard going on and stuff. But
listen, the moment I realized we were going to do something that might go out there, I did not want to come out in my lockdown look. I look like somebody who has been in some bunker for years. So.
Yeah, this cap is both a fashion accessory and a hair hider at the moment. So but we've been talking a little bit, and I think we've been very moved by not just the murder of George Floyd, but also the explosion of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests that we're seeing around the world, and just this feeling that actually it's the final straw, and that we need to be having this conversation, we need to be having it together, we need to be having it in open, and we've been friends for a couple of years now. We both came into church leadership around the same time, both 37, both got 3 kids, you know,
third one just arrived, so I caught up with you.
Yeah, congratulations again, by the way. I can't wait to meet him. Can't wait for the virus to be gone and for us to be able to be together fully. And we're trying to observe social distancing now, which is why we come to the woods to have this conversation.
Beautiful woods, by the way.
I can't believe that you've lived here all this time and not walked in them.
Not walked in them, I know.
But hey, that might be something we can talk about.
Well, another time.
But we, as I say, I think as we spoke, there's kind of a desire to model having a conversation and to be having that conversation. And you know, I think it's probably true to say that the north of the borough, where you lead a church, is more ethnically diverse than the south of the borough, where I lead a church.
Very true.
And I think our churches reflect that. And
now you mentioned that, actually, it reminds me when I went to Beulah, I was employed as the youth pastor, and one of the saddest times is when I recognized that some of my young people were always allowed to go and visit their friends in south of the borough, in Purley, friends that lived in Purley, Selzen area and stuff. But their friends were not allowed to come up north to visit them. And actually, it was one of the reasons why I asked the church for us to pray for the children when we started praying for our children. I said, this needs to change. We want to pray. And that's where Kids Club was born from, for Beulah, because of that very reason. So it is very different, the north and the south. And
yet we both love Croydon.
Amen.
And we're both excited about what his plans are for this borough that we live in. I think, you know, I was looking at it, and I think we've always known it, and I'm so thankful for the work that Beulah and other churches are doing with Kids Club. You know, we've got the highest proportion of young people than any London borough.
That's correct.
And so we want to get this right, don't we? Because we want our young people to grow up in a different world to the one that we've grown in, and we want these problems, which will always be problems because of the state of our hearts, but we want them to be less of a problem for our children than they were for us.
I think somebody put it will be an issue, but we don't want it to be the issue.
Very good. I can't remember who that was, but I remember hearing it as well. But I wondered, Joe, would you mind sharing a bit of the journey you've been on, you know, what's been going on in your mind as you've reflected on recent events?
So 2 things really, as you said, you put it right when you say it's a journey. The first time I heard about Black Lives Matter was when they booked our church hall. I think it was the beginning of it, a couple of years ago in the UK, when they came to Croydon and they wanted to do events to get their publicity out. And to be honest, I wasn't sure about it. I thought, oh man, this is going to be some protesting thing and stuff. So I lingered around just to engage in the conversation and to see what's happening. First, it was, I was surprised, but it was people between 20 and 30, in their 20s and 30s. So it was younger people. So we were able to have a conversation where I was saying, why is this? Should we not be saying that all lives matter and proclaiming equality on that basis rather than making the black thing a thing? And I say I am embarrassed about that now, because it is obvious in terms of what is happening, what has come out, that actually if what I said to them is true, that all lives matter, then I ought to be saying in this current climate that Black lives matter, because all lives matter. We need to be dealing with the atrocities that has been done towards the black people.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have shifted from saying let's not say Black Lives Matter to saying because all lives matter, we must be saying Black Lives Matter. So that's been my journey.
Yeah, and I don't think that you should be embarrassed about that.
Well,
I mean, I think that's a good journey to go on. But I think I was struck yesterday. I was talking to an older black gentleman in my church,
right,
and he was expressing, quite strong feelings about the fact that people were protesting because in light of the virus. And I just realised again, in this time, I realised again, there is no one way to think about these issues.
Sure.
There's no one way that a black person will think about this, or one way that a white person will think about this.
Correct.
And so we need to journey together, don't we?
Yeah.
So,
So it's. I mean, you're right. Therefore, the way I've approached this, and it's really good that we're just having conversation and talking about it. Because when it first started, it came out, I was like, whoa, what do you say? I had a similar reaction in myself in the way that I wanted to bring a response to the church concerning the COVID breakout and what was going on. I started by just listening to what other people are saying, what is being out there, what are people thinking, what are the issues going on there, so that when you begin to speak, you are at least aware of some stuff. So I think the journey begins with listening, really paying attention and hearing what is being said and what's behind that. So that when you speak, you will definitely offend people, but you are less likely if you do a measured response because you have heard enough. So that's been my journey.
Brilliant.
As well.
And then, I mean, one thing, it's I mean, as I say, it's going to be a two-way conversation, and yet there's a really strong sense that actually, the white community need to be listening to the experiences of the black community and trying to really understand that this is a real issue. It's a daily issue, and I know that when we spoke, actually, you said that you didn't really, as a black African in Britain, you didn't feel it.
Yeah.
It was a massive issue. So I wonder, would you mind kind of sharing a bit of your history, your experience of racism in the UK?
Yeah. So again, my experience came before my understanding. So I've just gotten to understand a lot more in terms of a little bit of a difference between the black African and the black Caribbean or black American, in the sense that the black African has a home. Okay. He's come here understanding that he has a home. This is where I live. This is where my family's from. This is, if anything should happen to this country, I'm out of here. No, I'm joking. I'll stand with you guys until it's all good. But in a real sense, I'm not necessarily looking for acceptance to belong here. Probably I'll fight for visas just so you guys don't give me problems. I can get to work, I can live and that sort of stuff. But it's not a real sense of looking for acceptance in the same way. And black Africans need to be aware of that, so that when they are speaking, they must know they're not struggling. They haven't had the same experience as the black Caribbean or the black American, who have been brought here involuntarily, and they're here and their whole life, this is their home, this is where they've built. Their ancestries from generations have been here now for a long time, for 200 plus years, have been working and investing here. So in a very real sense, this is home. And yet there are people living among them telling them, we don't accept you, this is not home. So it's massive hurt there. So for me, again, the first time I heard about racism was when I came here, and I was walking down with my friend, my white friend, and he said, "Did you hear that guy making monkey noises?" And I was like, "Oh, was he?" And if I had heard him making monkey noises, I'd probably join in and think it's a joke, because I didn't know what he meant by it. So he took my white friend to explain to me what racism was. And then again, I've been to pubs, and my friends again have said other people are relating to me differently because I'm black. And again, I was totally oblivious to it. But unfortunately, experience, as William Blake says, the songs of experience have set in where the songs of innocence is dying out. And particularly in this time, it is cruel. It's just been very thrown into our face, the cruel expression of that experience. And so when, again, like I said, I had to learn that. So I didn't have to, if I had rushed in and say, what's the big deal? That would be painful.
Yeah.
Saying things like that to somebody who was already hurting is like a double whammy. And so I've had to learn the difference. And again, that's part of the journey that I'm making as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Yeah. And then also you are, I discovered talking to you earlier that the sole black pastor in our movement of churches.
Oh my
How's that for you?
Again, I must be like the most self-unaware person on the planet. So I've been in Regions Beyond, obviously New Frontiers since 2008, and then joined Beulah and started working, and then became an elder and been there for a while. And as you said, last year took on the leadership of the church. I suppose it's because I've been in the minority at school, at college, at university. So at church, it didn't become a thing to me. But you are right, it's only in March, when we were at the Elders and Wives Weekend Away, that I realized that I was the only black Regions Beyond UK leader. Yeah. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I need to be aware of that in terms of engaging in the conversation and helping us think through this. And Owen Hilton has helped me a lot. And he's produced a paper that expresses some of these things. And again, it's part of the listening. I'm hearing Owen's perspective. Yeah. Obviously, because he comes from a different angle as well. Yeah. Which feeds me. It's
so. I mean, I think you know, you're the sole black pastor in Regions Beyond, but also your church has two black elders, one of whom is you.
Yep.
And I'm not even sure within our family of churches and probably within the mainstream church in the UK that's probably still an unusual occurrence. You know, I'm not aware of many black elders in other churches like ours.
That's right. That's right.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because you want to be intentional about you know, seeking out, you know, Jesus' church, reflecting all of his creation. And so you want leadership teams to reflect that. You want churches to reflect that.
Yeah.
And it's
what you mustn't do though is put token leaders in.
Exactly.
They will spot that from a mile and be like, how dare you?
Yeah.
So the real issue there is access and thinking. I think if we get the heart and the thinking right, that I think, if I'm honest, I have come to, and I need to be careful how I say this, I have come to accept that I think it is a common thing for the white person to think he's better than me.
Okay.
When I first realized it, I laughed in disbelief, okay? Because as I said to you, the Africans accept that obviously the developed world is better and grown and more developed. Yeah. Nevertheless, we are kings. We may be kings of mud huts, but we're kings, okay? So to come into a place where somebody thinks he's better than me just because he's white and I'm black was alien and foreign to me. Yeah. And it still is. But I have come to accept that that's the case. Very painful and sad. And so I guess what I wanted to say in response to that is, because that is true to some white people, they must be aware of that when they are looking at potential leaders. It is possible that it's a blind spot.
I mean, I just think about like today, like I said to you, I'll see you at 10:30. Yeah. And I get to your house at 10:25.
Yep.
And you're nowhere near ready. And like, you know, and so I mustn't, knowing that there are these cultural differences, I mustn't make this a thing that you're trustworthiness, or that not yours, that one's trustworthiness stands or falls on. You know, what are the things that are truly important? You know, how do we recognise godly character in people whose lifestyles or cultures are different to your own? And that's tough, isn't it?
It is. And I had a similar conversation with John Cleveley, actually, and it's the difference between preference and actually judging a person's character. And that comes from, again, understanding and hearing. So if, for example, and we joke about this because it's clear and it's true, there's been so many cases where you would expect a black person to be late to something. And African time, they call it,
Am I allowed to say that now?
Well, exactly. You're allowed to say that to your friends because they understand. And that's the issue, is the understanding, isn't it? So, but if the white person or the person who values time makes a character judgment on the person because of that, they may have missed something. So it's a cultural thing where in Africa, the emphasis on relationship is so high, so far more above time, that even if I was late going somewhere, I'm already late going somewhere, and I meet an uncle, somebody who needs something, and they greet me, and there is something happening in their lives, I'm going to talk. Because you heard the phrase, Africa is a village. We call everybody uncle and auntie, even if you're not blood related. So you stop and you're talking to a stranger, and yet you are talking to them and engaging with them as if they are family. And therefore, that's where the lateness starts from. And so you get used to being late, and then you're like, oh, no, it'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine, type of thing. So when they come into a country where time is an issue, they need to make that adjustment. But it's not because they're not trustworthy, it's because they've been used to operating on a different principle where they'll give time for people more than agendas, so to speak.
Great.
But yeah, I wanted to know what your journey has been like, because obviously you're white.
I am.
You said you're leading a church in a white majority area and white majority church and things like that. What's been your response? How are you feeling about this?
So I think it's been a journey of, and as I say, it's not one. I don't know if my thinking has changed so much as it's come to the fore.
Right.
And you know, I would consider myself to not be racist. I'm aware that because of the world that I live in, that there are unconscious sort of racist attitudes or thinking that you know, that I see at times, and I like it, and it's not something that sits easily with me. It's like, no, that's wrong. But I think it just feels as though this is like a final straw moment.
Sure.
It feels like that we've been saying this for so long, and it's got to stop. So we've got to be having the conversation. You know, I'm feeling as though it's not just enough to consider myself to not be racist. I've got to be actively anti-racist, and that's something that so many people have said through this time, isn't it?
Excellent.
But and so that's why we're having this conversation, isn't it? You know, because you know, I want to learn from you. I want to hear where my thinking needs shaping and changing, and I want to understand, you know, and you don't represent the whole of, you know, you're not speaking for every black man, or every black person, but I want to understand your experience, because you're my friend, and I want to know how I can, you know, love you better, and, you know, be a good brother in Christ to you. And so that's what we're doing, I guess.
That's good. No, that's really helpful. I think probably the takeaway from this conversation, as we've just been sharing the journey that we've been on, is to understand that it starts with listening. So we can get a better understanding. Because if we speak too soon, we will say things that later on when we learn things, we would regret that we said them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's better to listen and learn.
I love that quote. What was the quote you just shared earlier? The William Carey one, the songs of experience are replacing the songs of innocence.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've never heard that before. Love that.
Yeah, that's my literature school. Back in GCSE, I knew I need to learn that. But yeah, so yeah, listen. I think listen, engage like we're doing now. If you don't have a black friend, deliberately make one. We talk about intentional relationships, intentional friendship. Make one. Yeah,
very good.
Just so that you are. And similarly, if you're black and you're thinking, how is this happening? How is it that some white people think they are better than black people because they're white? What is the thinking behind there? And rather than making a judgment from it and being angry, make friends with a white person, and when you have that good friendship relationship, they may be able to be vulnerable to you and explain where that is, and therefore real change and real repentance will take place, as opposed to a demanded one, which is never really true. You just hide otherwise, isn't it?
Well, it's got to be heart change that lasts, isn't it? You know, this, as I say, it feels like it's a last straw moment, but you know, so many things come and go, and this has to stick, and this has to be something that we do journey and that we do learn about and grow in. But,
agreed.
Brilliant.
Agreed. Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this with us.
No, it's great.
So good to talk with you.
We need to keep talking.
And,
keep talking.
Well, I wonder what we'll talk about next time.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what we learned since then.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Joseph.
No, pleasure.
Cool.
Alrighty.
See how that was.